And if everybody can turn on their videos, it will be good, just for this time at least, so that we are able to see each other, know each other before we dive into SFDs. So maybe I can ask one by one, and then you can give a line of introduction and something, some fun fact about yourself, maybe. So we know the serious things you have already mentioned in the Moodle platform. Okay. So maybe somebody's joined with the name from her phone, I guess, MIA3. Would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, this is me, Soni Kumari. I am working as a WM consultant in Jutslai Nagar Parishad, that is in Jharkhand.
Okay.
And I have my own startup in the waste management, and we are working from last 4 years in the waste management, especially in the municipal solid waste.
Okay. Saurav?
Hello, everyone. I'm Saurabh Saizu from Nepal. I work in an organization called Lumanti Support Group for Center. We especially work for waste sector and also for housing. I work there as a documentation, monitoring, and evaluation officer. Thank you.
Okay. Welcome. Dhruv?
Hi, everybody. Good afternoon. My name is Dhruv Pasricha, and I work as a senior associate at CSE's water team. And I'm interested in a lot of water-related topics, and particularly use of GIS and remote sensing in trying to address these issues.
Welcome. Mukesh?
Hello, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Mukesh Kumar Pandit from Nepal. I work in the organization N4, and I'm a civil engineer. And, recently I work in the project at Surya.
Okay. And if anybody is not speaking, you can mute yourself for the time being. Okay, so I hope I'm not skipping anyone. Bhushan.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. My name is Bhushan Gahamagar. I'm from Nepal, and I'm currently doing ME in sanitation in Kathmandu University. As for the work, my background is civil engineering, and I'm just mostly I do my work in freelancing right now. Thank you.
Okay. So as I said, we'll not just talk all serious things. So we should talk about something fun as well. So let me just do a small game here. So how many engineers here, they can raise their hand? Keep it raised. I think more than 50%. Okay. And so we know all the engineers. So all the engineers don't need to talk about their engineers. So next 4 or 5 people can talk about their hobbies maybe. Manish? We can't hear you. Okay, so we'll come back to Manish. There is some mic issues. Pushka? You'll have to unmute yourself.
So, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Pushkar Rao. I'm from Nepal. I'm working as a water engineer in Lumanti under water STC program in Banket district of Nepal.
And what's your hobby?
My hobby is playing football. I love football. I'm a big Chelsea fan. So that's what traveling, football. That's it.
Okay. Hopefully traveling open soon. Shukawat.
Good afternoon. My name is Shakwat. I'm from Bangladesh. Currently, I'm working at 48 Bangladesh as program officer engineer, and I'm also directly involved in co-compost plant at Soyadpur and Shokipur. Soyadpur just all construction work completed, and we are now going through the trial composting. Thank you.
Okay. Yogita?
Namaste everyone. I'm from Nepal. My name is Joyita Raja and currently I'm studying Master in Sanitation Technology.
You want to tell your hobby?
Just cooking and traveling. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Shivali?
I am Shivali. I am from Center for Science and Environment again.
In the Moodle platform, the link was
Planner and working in water sensitive design and planning sector.
Okay. Sumansa?
Hello everyone, I am Shumon from Dhaka, Bangladesh. Presently I am working with Water Aid Bangladesh, and you know very well I am responsible to operation and management of Shokipur composting plant and also Soyadpur composting plant. So thank you everyone.
Okay. Shivani? You have to unmute.
Hi everyone, this is Shivani. I work as a research associate at CSC. I like painting, traveling, and I also train. I'm a fitness enthusiast and I train for parkour and stuff. It's nice to see you.
Hello everyone. I'm working as a consultant with Boda. Boda is working in water and sanitation sector, and my hobby is Taekwondo. It's basically an art of martial arts.
Good. So we have a football fan, a Taekwondo fan here, and an artist. So the ones I can recall. Okay, Suraj?
Hello everyone. I'm from Nepal.
You have to be a bit louder. We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now? Hello? Can you hear me?
A little bit, yeah, go on.
Yes, I'm Suraj. I'm from Nepal. I just master's in currently working 500 beach options. My hobby is to swim, trek, and do cycling.
Okay, so I think it was really hard to hear you. So maybe you should get yourself an earphone or something for the rest of the training. Yash? Yash, would you like to introduce yourself?
Yeah, I am Yasman Karmachare from Nepal. I'm working in a NGO, Center for Integrated Urban Development. My hobby is to do hiking, and also working with the community. Yeah, I just I did my master's in sociology, and now I'm working in WAS and as well as, so it's diverse. Sometimes I'm in the WAS and sometimes in the open space management. So it's just according to the projects. Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Welcome. Ekta?
Hi, I'm Eka. I'm working as program officer at Center for Science and Environment, and I love to travel. That's my hobby. Thank you.
Okay, Sumita, my co-coordinator here. You'll have to unmute.
Hi all, I'm Sumita. I'm working as a Deputy Program Manager in Center for Science and Environment. It gives me immense pleasure to meet such a wide domain of professionals all around the world. And my hobbies, there's a big list of hobbies as I mentioned earlier also. So cooking, dancing, drawing, sketching, art, to name few. Thank you all.
We have a multi-talented single individual also. Okay, Imran, we'll quickly finish this.
Hello everyone. This is Imran from Bangladesh. I'm communication officer in WaterAid. Through some communication activities with technical team, I have visited FSM plans and some activities I have found in that FSM plan and got interest to learn furthermore. That's why I enrolled in SFD. So hope we'll learn better and will apply this further. So my hobbies, in different time, I interested in different things. So presently, I'm interested in to know about the history of World War. So I'm trying to read some books on World War, and that made some interest to visit that some places in Europe. So hope I will someday I will visit in Europe. Thanks.
I hope you also read the pre-reading material for the course. Okay, I hope we have covered everyone. If I've missed out on anybody, you can quickly unmute yourself.
Good afternoon, everybody.
Absolutely.
Myself, Dr. Nasruddin, working as an Assistant Director in Regional Center for Urban and Environmental Studies. This institute was established by the Ministry of Housing and Urban Affairs, Government of India. I have completed my PhD in Urban Geography from Jamia Millia Islamia. Regarding hobbies, I love to travel and gossip with friends. Nothing else. Simple. Thank you very much.
Okay, welcome everybody. So as you've seen, we have
Hello.
people from, is there somebody left?
Harsh Mimi.
Oh.
Hello everyone, I'm Harsh Yadav and I'm from Center for Science and Environment. I like to travel and explore new places, and also I like to play badminton. All the best for the virtual course, everyone.
Okay, so for this particular course, my colleagues Harsh, Manish will be supporting mostly, and they will be helping with the exercises sessions, and also Ekta is going to support us. Okay, so if I can also introduce myself, and if somebody wants to say something.
Yes, hello, Manish Mishra here.
Okay, with the mic.
Yeah, am I audible now?
Yes.
Hello everyone, good afternoon. Myself Manish Mishra. I am working as a research associate at Center for Science and Environment, and I have completed my master degree in statistics as well as in civil environmental engineering. So, and I like to play with data as my background is from statistics. That's all.
All right. So, yeah. So my name is Vitush, as most of you must be knowing by now, and I'm a program manager at CSC and been associated with SFDs right from the beginning. And happy to interact the next 3 days with you all, and we will kind of dissect SFDs in and out to understand. And by the end of the 3 days, the objective is all of you should be equipped enough to do your own SFDs. That's the whole idea. And I am hoping that everybody has gone through the reading material. If not, we will try and see how we can cope up. But then those who have already gone through the reading material have seen the videos, it will be easier for them to kind of catch up. Okay, having said that, so we would like these 3 days to be very interactive and not one-way traffic. So, so we will start the interaction right from the beginning. I would like to understand from you, what do you understand by SFD? Because we are not going to take a session on what is SFD in the virtual session. So it will be a brief interaction here, and then we will dive into the nitty-gritties of SFD. So I want to do a little bit of discussion and what do you understand by SFD, and if you have gone through the material, fair enough. If not done, then also you can pitch in. So over to you. You have, I mean, you can unmute yourself, volunteer, and share your understanding of SFD. What do you understand by SFD?
So thank you, British. I just interested to volunteer first. So from the course, what I have, and from other readings, what I have learned about SFD, if I say in brief, it's a picture of sanitation, whole sanitation chain of a city, which is from where excreta comes and where excreta goes. So, and it's a very effective tool to understand this sanitation situation. And also from that picture, you can take, or a city policymakers or focal persons, focal organization can take necessary initiative to manage or to perform to make the city's sanitation situation better. So in brief, I understand SFD is this kind of SFD is a tool that gives you a total sanitation picture of a city with better understanding.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks.
Anybody else who would like to pitch in? Over and above, if you want to add to what Imran shared, your understanding of SFD. Chicago?
Yeah, thank you. I just want to add with Imran that SFD is like a pictorial diagram of excreta flow, where we can visually can see that from the containment to end point, how the excreta flow and how it actually come from different points, point of view, and how many population actually covered in this shape flow diagram. That percentage we can get from the SFD. This is kind of a pictorial view to know more about the sheet flow of a city, so that we can make an initial step to do some activity to mitigate this kind any kind of problem which arise due to the excreta.
Okay, thank you. So we have got both the inputs from Bangladesh. I think they are much ahead in the understanding of SFD. Somebody from Nepal would like to share their understanding. What do you understand by SFD, this term?
Hello.
What I understood from SFD, Bhusanji Banya. What I understood from SFD is basically it is a representation of sanitation value chain. Like it generally speaks up a language that describes where your fecal is actually moving into, and it gives a clear picture how the fecal of a particular city or state or province or even a nation can be analyzed, whether it has been adequately used in a safely managed level or it has not been used in a safely managed level. So this is what I understood about SFD. It basically gives a clear overview of where the fecal is actually going in a particular system.
Mm-hmm. Okay, Bhushan, you wanted to share something. I have a specific question to you. I have a specific question to you.
Speaking about SFD right now. From what I learned,
So Bhushan, I want to ask you, let's say you have a SFD, how can you use the SFD? What's the application of SFD?
It's a tool. It's a tool that helps to assess the sanitation situation of the particular area where we are doing SFD. That's what I learned from the course that the learning.
Mhm.
Uh,
No, I'm saying, let's say you have developed the SFD for your city.
yeah,
What is the benefit you will have? How can you? What is the application? How can you use the SFD in your city?
it will help us to know the condition of the place.
Okay.
And it's the main condition. It's just an assessing tool. I don't think it will help, but it can help us to develop the condition in the future. But it does not help that how the condition is, how the sanitation system will be made.
So it may help you to prioritize your projects.
In next time.
If you know the conditions better,
Yeah.
it may help. Okay. Somebody from India, if wants to comment on how can we use SFDs once done. Anybody? Dr. Nasruddin, you would like to comment?
Can I chip in over here? So in the use of SFD, what I have seen from my past experience with SFD is that it can help us guide a decision making process where we can prioritize on certain actions. Also, it can also help us try to prepare sanitation oriented strategies for a particular area. For example, if we want to focus more on the offsite or onsite sanitation systems, and which part of the sanitation value chain can we actually attack or can we actually address on a priority basis, so that it helps us deciding the priority as well, or where to invest our scarce resources efficiently. That is one of the, I think, it gives a very clear picture on where to put your money, which gives the best possible results. That is one of the key applications as per my understanding.
All right. So, in interest of time, there are various applications to SFD. It can help you to do better city sanitation planning. It can help you to get the so for example, you want to explain to the decision makers the situation of the city. This is an easy to understand tool which can help you to get funding. It can help you to get the political buy-in. It can, and over and above, recently what we have seen, the SFDs can also help in monitoring. Let's say you did an SFD for a city sometime back, for a few years back, and if you do a fresh SFD, it can help you to understand how the city is progressing in terms of the sanitation. So these are a few other applications of SFD. So I thought before we dive into how to do SFD, we should know what the SFD is all about and what are the possible applications of SFD. Having said that, as of now, at the moment, CSE and other organizations are researching into can SFD be used for equity, to showcase equity aspects. Also, can SFDs be interact with spatial GIS maps? How SFDs can do that? So these are certain areas where the research is going on, and so these are the applications once the SFDs start. Okay. Meanwhile, when we were doing this discussion, we have, I think, two more people who have joined us. Would you like to quickly introduce yourself, Subha? Subha and Anil, I guess.
Okay, shall I start my introduction?
Yes, yes, please.
Yes, okay. Okay, namaste. I'm Anil Maharjan. I'm working as a project coordinator for WAS SDG project based in Surkhet district. It's western part of the Nepal. So, yeah, that's fine. Okay.
Welcome. Subha,
Sorry for late, actually. Yeah.
No problem. Don't be late tomorrow.
Okay.
Subha?
Yes, sure.
Subha, would you like to introduce yourself? guess my voice is not reaching Subha. And also our senior director joined. Meanwhile, I would like to also ask him to say a few words before we dive into further.
Bitush, I'm just joining as an observer, but yes, as usual, it's very happy to be part of this entire cohort of, I think this is 8th or 9th group which we are working with, and we are hoping that we would be able to have some credible SFDs prepared for respective cities from where you are connecting. And this is a difficult situation when we decided to do this program also to challenge COVID, saying that we are not going to stop. We will continue our work, and we will take all precautions, and we will continue our technical support to our global community, in particular in Nepal, where this training is targeted, where large number of participants are coming, as well as some of my team members and other people, saying that we are getting back to used to the new normal, and we are committed to scaling up the advocacy for SFD, which should be institutionalized, to make a sense that whatever FSM agenda is being built up, saying hardware, which is FSTPs, whether that's the right way, or there is a hybrid system, I think, or a city-wide sanitation. So if there's a more integral view has to be taken, the starting point has to be a situation assessment. Sometimes we don't have resources and manpower to do detailed house-to-house surveys. SFDs can be good tool to prioritize our investments, saying that if there is a consensus, saying this is the picture which broadly everybody agrees, then where do we invest? Whether we invest in the improvement of the on-site system, or we invest in emptying services, or we invest in the treatment systems, or we also build in the investments, the reuse of the treated sludge or the wastewater which comes out, such that there is a resource recovery. I think it is aimed at improved urban sanitation, and I hope that all of you who are involved in development sector would be clear in this vision and strategy, and we see you as ambassadors of this project which we have initiated to scale up, institutionalize and roll out SFD preparation in Global South, including India and Nepal particular in this training. Vitush, I think other than Nepal, we don't have any other participants from outside, or we have Africa?
We have a couple from, 3 of them from Bangladesh as well.
Bangladesh, okay. So Bangladesh participants also, this is our continued partnership. Bangladesh, we have been continuing SFD built up, and this is our 2nd or 3rd training we are doing. So we also welcome you on board. So thank you very much for joining. And Vitush, I will be in observer status on and off in both the days. So please continue with the meeting.
Okay. So I think the stage is set to dive into how to. So we wanted to actually start the discussion with how do we really read an SFD once the SFD is done, before we get into how do we prepare one. So before we get into that, based on the videos and the reading material you have gone through, if you have any questions, we can take it right away, or also we can note down these questions if those questions are getting answered in the presentation. So we will kind of wait for the presentation to continue. So so this will also give me some idea of how many of you have gone through the material seriously. If you have any question based on the material you have seen, the videos you have seen in last week, if you have any question to ask based on that. So you can unmute yourself and ask the question. Suraj, are you raising your hand? Or is it raised previously? If not, then, oh, yeah, Yash, you want to say something?
Yeah, I have a couple of questions, but I want to raise one, just a query.
Sure.
That almost all the videos that I have seen is like this has been done in the plain area. Plain area. So, as Nepal is full of mostly the rural municipality and the municipality are in the hilly regions. So, is there any and that is been done in the hilly region that this SFD is followed? So, in part of Nepal, so how can we, because when the rural municipality and the municipality itself, it's like a rural. So the houses are scattered. So how can we combine that and just get into one track in the system and in the one what we say in this treatment in the treatment system? So will it not be a high costly and very not so effective in this area? So what is the how you find these things?
Vitush, can I add something here?
Yeah.
I would say it is more useful in your situation and your area. In fact, the possibility of a centralized system or something is extremely impossible. It is not going to be there near future. However, SFD has a jurisdiction which is supposed to be defined, whether it is a jurisdiction of your panchayat or your census town or a town. So that municipal boundary, within that, you are trying to assess the on-site and off-site sanitation system. So it doesn't matter whether it is partially populated. However, it does offer that there are different solutions available in the hilly areas, and they should do things differently rather than how it has been done. So videos are just because that some of the development change agents have been working in those areas. However, it makes more sense because it relates to a jurisdiction of the administrative boundary, whether it is a Gram Panchayat boundary, which covers the area which is responsible for addressing sanitation. So the target group is your administrator, whether it is the Gram Panchayat or the municipal commissioner or an executive officer. Okay, it relates to the boundary, and within the boundary, what is the condition? Am I correct, Vitush? Yeah.
So,
thank you. Thank you.
As rightly mentioned by Dr. Roila, also wanted to, with your question, wanted to keep some boundaries for the training. So, of course, everybody is very enthusiastic about finding a sanitation solution, but the objective of this training will be to understand how to do an SFD. And SFD is going to tell us the existing sanitation situation. So quite often we will see our discussions moving towards finding a solution to the problem, but we will try and restrain ourselves to keep our discussion to how can we do a good SFD for the city, because otherwise this training will kind of go on for days and days. We will try and find a sanitation solution for the city in the same training. And so your question was also answered by Dr. Roila. So it's to give you some examples, we have around 9 or 10 SFDs from Nepal, which I'll share the list and the link where you can get them. And we have some Indian hilly region SFDs as well, if that be of any help to you.
I'm sure in the global SFDs also we have many examples from different countries also.
Yeah. Okay. So I mean, if you're not very open to ask question verbally, you can also put it on chat for the timing, but we would like you to be interactive. So in interest of time, I'll start my first presentation for the our session today, which is how do we read an SFD. So I'll share my screen. Okay, so I mean, feel free to ask a question in between also. As I said, we wanted to be interactive, so it will not be one-way traffic. I'll be asking questions in between as well. Okay, so one thing which you must have all, the people who have already gone through the material, you must have seen is that SFD is not the graphic alone. It comes with a report, and the report is going to tell us the enabling environment, the service, the quality of the service, and all those things. And it also gives us the sources of the data we have used to develop the SFD, so on and so forth. So SFD has to be read with the report is one thing very important. Then all of you, I believe, have already seen an SFD. There are two colors we majorly use, red and green. Though we will use this word unsafe and safe, we will kind of dive deep into it. For the understanding right now, the green color, of course, is going to be talking about it is being managed, and the red is talking about mismanagement. The width of the arrow depends on the corresponding percentage. We will kind of repeat this point several times during the presentation as well, but just putting it across right in the beginning. So a lot of times we get confused in terms of what is this percentage referring to. It is going to only and only represent the percentage of population dependent on that system, and not volumes of wastewater or kgs of excreta. And yeah, so with this background, let's kind of get into dissection mode of an SFD. So a typical SFD will have a column left in the column which says of the three kinds of sanitation systems, and at the top you have the sanitation service chain. So I believe everybody kind of understands this, that a city can produce excreta in three ways. One is offsite, the other is onsite, the third is you don't have any system, it's an open defecation. So I know everybody knows it, but still, if somebody can quickly tell me the difference between the two, offsite sanitation and onsite sanitation. And the people who have not spoken are encouraged to speak. So I strongly recommend that you volunteer yourself. Otherwise, I will pinpoint, and then it will be difficult for that person to answer. So it's better that people volunteer themselves.
Can I?
Okay, sorry, I lost my connection. Okay, so coming back to the question, if somebody can differentiate between offsite sanitation and onsite sanitation.
So B2C?
There is no G.
Okay, sorry. Okay, so actually for the offsite sanitation means actually the excreta or waste water will be collected in some place, and that will be managed in another site especially particularly from the far distance from the actually from the toilet or the or what we say the main excreta collected area, you know. So the on-site means on-site sanitation means the excreta will be managed or wastewater will be managed at this site where the toilet is located, you know. That is my understanding actually.
Okay. Thank you so much, Anil.
Pratosh,
Yeah.
can I speak? In offsite sanitation, you know, the toilet were connected to the drainage system like a sewerage or the in which the excreta will go from the site to the other areas. Whereas the on-site sanitation system, the toilet connected with the tank or the septic tank in which the excreta will store within the site. And the open defecation is the जिसमें कि we can do anywhere. कहीं पर भी openly we can do it. So I think this is the difference between the offsite and onsite and open defecation system.
Okay, so before we continue, I just wanted to quickly check with our international participants if a little bit of Hindi is involved. Is it okay?
Okay, sorry.
For Nepali, I think it's pretty okay. I don't know about Bengali. Friends.
Is it fine with the Nepali participants?
It is fine sometimes.
Okay. Okay, we'll just try and keep it small then. I think the Bangladeshi people, I can vouch for them. They'll understand. A lot of Bollywood happens there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So yes, thank you, Anil, and also Dr. Nasruddin for adding to the understanding of offsite and onsite sanitation. So let me take an example, and if you can tell me whether it's an offsite sanitation or onsite sanitation. So let's say there is a septic tank which is connected to sewer network. Which category will you put this system in? Shakawat, you want to answer?
Yeah, I think it's offsite sanitation system.
Okay. Anybody who differs from him? Anybody who would like to say that a septic tank connected to a sewer network is an on-site system? Is there anybody who would say this in the virtual room? You can just raise your hand. I'll also get to know with that as well.
If the septic tank connected to the sewerage system, I think it's off-site sanitation.
No, that I get. So I'm asking if there is anybody in the room who will say it's an on-site system.
No, it is offsite system.
My question is, what is the volume, or what is the exact size of a offsite sanitation?
No, irrespective. Irrespective of the size and the volumes, the question is, if you have a septic tank in your house and you want to portray in the SFD, which category will you put that in, offsite or onsite? I guess a lot of people are saying offsite. I am looking for someone who would say it's an onsite system.
Actually, I want to say something about this, sir. If septic tank is not connected to sewer, it is a septic tank itself is a treatment system. Itself is a treatment system. If it is not connected to the sewer.
Sorry, can you repeat it a bit slowly?
On sewer system, septic tank itself is a treatment system.
Right.
Itself a treatment. If it is connected to a sewer, as you can see, only after the from the outlet, the only discharging water or refreshing groundwater is provided from the outlet from soak pit. You know, as from the design, that's I know. If it is connected to sewer, about that I don't know. It could be on-site or off-site too.
You have to pick one.
If I have to pick, I'll pick on-site.
On-site?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think I also agree it's on-site system because maybe the supernatant will go on the sewer system, but the excreta itself will be treated in the septic tank. So it's an on-site system, yes.
Okay. So I've got 3 votes for on-site, one Bhushan and one Dhruv, and also Shivali on chat is saying it's an on-site system. Anybody else? All right. So let me kind of define the system for you and then ask this question again. So with respect to shit flow diagram, so we will try and revolve our discussion around SFDs. With respect to SFDs, if the first question being asked is, do you have a toilet? If the answer is no, you are in the category of open defecation. That's very clear. I think we don't need to kind of get into that. Now the only confusion area is what kind of system will go in on-site and what will go in off-site. So there are some typical cases where the confusion lies, like this one, where the septic tank is connected to a sewer system. To the people who are saying it's an off-site system, will your answer change if I will say the septic tank is connected to an open drain? So think about this. Can everybody hear me?
Yes.
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 So the question to the people who are saying it's an off-site system is, if there is a septic tank connected to an open drain, in which category will you put that system?
I will put it in on-site sanitation, I think.
A bit louder, please.
I'll put this in on-site sanitation. It's an on-site sanitation because containment in septic tank, but the emptying is in the environment. So it's not connected to any central system. So I would go, it's on-site sanitation.
Okay. Anybody else who will change their answer from off-site to on-site?
Yes, even though it connected with the open drain, it is offsite sanitation, I think.
Offsite.
Yeah.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So in interest of time, let me redefine these systems for you. So if, let's say, if the toilet is connected to some kind of a box, it could be a tank, it could be a pit, it could be a line tank with open bottom, it could be a lined pit, it could be twin pit. If there is some kind of a box after your toilet, then that population will be considered as on-site sanitation, irrespective of what that box is connected to. So even if that box is connected to a sewer network, still it's an on-site system. Even if that system is connected to an open drain, still it's an on-site system. If it is connected to a soak pit, it is an on-site system. Yeah. For an off-site system to be qualified to be called as an off-site system, the definition is that the toilet is directly connected to that conveyance system. It could be toilet connected to open drain directly. It could be toilet connected to a closed drain directly. It could be a toilet connected to a decentralized sewerage system. It could be a toilet connected to a centralized sewerage system. In all these cases, the answer is off-site sanitation, where the excreta is not getting stored in a box. it is directly getting conveyed from the toilet to somewhere offsite. Yeah. In that condition, it is an offsite sanitation system. If you have some kind of a storage happening, then it's an on-site system. So the case which I described initially, where a septic tank is connected to a sewer system, is an on-site sanitation system because you need to manage the fecal sludge which will get generated from these on-site systems. So we are kind of trying to understand the systems also as we try to understand how do we read SFD. So, so if I put it in other words, if at all there is any kind of emptying required at the source, it's an on-site system. That means there is a box which is storing your excreta irrespective of the time period. If that box is storing your excreta that you need to empty after some time, then it's an on-site system. And septic tank is not solving the problem completely because it is partially treating. So the supernatant or the liquid which is generated in the septic tank further needs treatment, whether you take it to an offsite system or you try and kind of disperse it through a soak pit or a soak away or through a decentralized system. In any case, it's an on-site system if you have a box. If anybody has a doubt, you can ask. So I hope the people who said offsite understand how we are differentiating between the three systems here. To my mind, when I go to a city to develop an SFD, the simple question I ask is, do you have a box? If the answer is yes, it's an on-site. If you don't have a box, it's an off-site sanitation. Okay. If you have understood the column, the leftmost column, let's have a quick discussion on the heading. The very first row at the top row, which is the sanitation service chain. I believe everybody have gone through and they know the sanitation chain, and still I will kind of briefly kind of describe. It's a service chain. It's the whole, ideally it should be a cycle, but we still have a chain most of the cities. So from containment, we need to empty the stuff which needs to be transported to ideally to a treatment facility. And then from treatment, ideally there should be some kind of a reuse or an end use or a disposal system. So this is the chain. So in a way, what we are saying that the excreta that gets generated in the city, whether it's an off-site system or it's an on-site, or we are defecating in open, tries to follow this chain, and that is what we try to map in the SFD. That how the excreta is kind of maneuvering inside the city, whether it was stored in the box or not, whether there was a toilet at all or not, or if it was an off-site system, how the excreta was conveyed. So all that is trying to be mapped on the SFD. Moving on, it's very, very important that you mention the date on which you do the SFD, because things change and then the authorities might kind of counter and say that the SFD does not represent the true picture, but the SFD is going to represent the true picture as on date when you are developing the SFD. So the SFD we are discussing today is one of the SFDs done in 2015. It's a city called Cuttack. So we've mentioned the date on which this SFD was done. To be frank, if the SFD is done today, the situation will change, the SFD will change. And that's how in the beginning, as I said, the monitoring, the SFDs can be used for monitoring. So date is important. This is the service chain. So once, in the beginning, I said that these boxes are going to represent the percentage of population dependent on these systems. And if you look at the width of these boxes, it is representing how much percentage of population is dependent on that system. So if I add the so the width or the width of all these boxes, it should be equivalent to 100%. Yeah, and looking at the width of the boxes, you can easily say that the minimum number of population is dependent on open defecation, and then a little more than that in offsite, and maximum people are dependent on on-site systems. And it is representing the percentage of population. Now, the very, very basic question for an SFD is whether the arrow will be red or green. And the question is, the question is answered very simply. And the statement I'll kind of also repeat again. So we need to ask this question at each stage of the service chain, whether or not the excreta is contained at that particular stage. If the answer is yes, the excreta is contained at that stage, then the color of the arrow would be green. If the answer is no, the excreta is not contained at that particular stage, the arrow will be red. Now the bigger question is, what do you mean by contained? Can somebody put some light and help me here? Those who have seen the SFDs much more and have some idea. If you have also gone through the material, you will be able to help me here. So don't get confused between containment system and contained. What we are trying to understand now is the term contained. What do you understand by the term contained?
Is it like a closed box?
Okay.
Safety. I mean, if it is safe, then it is contained.
Actually, other way around. If it is contained, it's going to be safe.
Yes.
Or green. Yeah. So what do you understand by contained?
Like sealed.
Since I'm not able to see you guys, if you can say your name and then answer.
I'm Shakar. It's like contained means like the sealed box or something.
Okay. Yeah. That's partially correct, yes.
And maybe transmission of pathogen is limited or minimized something.
Who's this? Can you?
Yogita.
That's completely correct answer. Anybody else want to put it differently?
Can you repeat? I couldn't hear.
Yeah, Yogita, can you repeat for everybody? Yogita, can you repeat? Unmute yourself. And
I was sorry. I'm saying that the transmission of pathogen is minimum. Then we can say it is contained.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
Can I say something?
Sure.
Something is stored inside, like excreta, but it is not spread.
Okay. So what you are explaining is one of the ways to contain. But we are going to ask this question at each stage. So imagine each stage. We are asking this question at transport stage also. We are asking this question at the treatment stage also. So as you, so in its interest of time, as Yogita said, we will kind of contemplate a little bit more. So when we say anything is, or any system is contained, what we are trying to refer to is that the pathogen transmission has been limited. Okay. So for example, if my toilet is connected to a sewerage system, which eventually is connected to a sewage treatment plant. So because it's a underground system, as soon as I flush from the toilet, the pathogen transmission is limited to the general public, right? it directly goes to the sewer network, and then it goes to the treatment plant. So we have been able to stop the interaction of pathogen which is present in the fecal matter to the general public because of the system. So we have actually tried to provide a contained system to the city. Now there could be some gaps, some loopholes in the system, and in those areas we will see how much or what percentage is not contained. But at the containment stage, if the toilet is connected to underground sewage system, it's a contained system. Let me take another example. Let's say we are in a city where the groundwater table is very deep, and we have some percentage of population which is dependent on a septic tank, which is a well-designed septic tank, followed by a soak pit. So what would you call this kind of a system? Is it contained or not contained?
It is contained.
Okay. Anybody who would like to say it's a not contained system? Okay, Mukesh also says it's a contained system. Okay, let me take another example. We have some percentage of population is dependent on a pit latrine, and same, the groundwater table is still deep. What will you call this system?
Can you repeat
Single
again?
pit or twin pits?
Either ways. So I will repeat. We are looking at a pit system now, or twin pit, let's say. And the groundwater table is still not a big issue. It's very deep. And people have a twin pit system and they use it properly, alternate, they use it and they empty it when it's converted into manure. What will you call this kind of a system?
Contained.
It's content, I think, because we consider
yes, content.
definitely managed.
Okay. Okay, one last final example. Let's say we have a septic tank and it is connected to an open drain. We don't know about the groundwater table of that area, but the septic tank is, most of the septic tanks are connected to open drain. So at the containment stage, what will you call the system as?
It's also contained. Because
content, I think.
Because in open drain, the emptying are going to open drain. So, but the initial stage is as box.
Anybody else who differs?
Actually, it's not content actually, because we cannot ensure about the safe level on the protection from the excreta actually.
The process is not safely, but still it is contained because it makes some limitation to transmission of pathogen.
All right. Anybody else?
Well, there might be like the pit which do not have a covered bottom or covered walls.
Who's this?
So in that case, this is Saurabh. So in that case, we cannot consider it as a contained box. But if the pit is well designed to, like hold the excreta and wastewater in a way that the pathogens do not move freely into the other part, then it can be said as a contained box and vice versa. Yeah, thank you.
So sort of we are referring to now, we're not talking about a pit right now. We are looking at a septic tank connected to an open drain. So let's say in the city, there's a drain flowing next to the households, and all the septic tanks are overflowing into an open drain. And we are at the containment stage itself, we are looking at whether the system will be contained or not.
Yeah, it's connected with open drain. That's why it's not contained.
Yes, I would also
Saurabh,
say
you would like to comment?
Yes, I would also say it is not contained because the drain, the water, it's basically drainage is for the purpose of holding, you know, like the rainwater and those kind of things. So it is not designed to hold excreta and other, I mean, black water or something like that. So it is not contained.
Exactly. So, let me just put it like this. At the containment stage, the system is, so this was a problem, I mean, I'm sharing an Indian example, that in the sensors also, we generally just ask whether your toilet is connected to a pit or a septic tank or a sewer network. The question is not being asked what happens beyond the septic tank. So at containment stage, the system is complete if you also talk about where the septic tank is overflowing into. If the septic tank was flowing into a soak pit or in an open drain, that is the complete system we are talking about. So since septic tank is connected to an open drain, which means partially treated water is overflowing throughout the city. So at the very first stage, we were not able to contain the pathogen transmission. So there is a possibility of pathogen transmission because the very first system is not containing the excreta. It is overflowing, and because we also don't take care of our scheduled emptying, not everybody is emptying their systems timely. Slowly and steadily, what goes out of a septic tank into the open drain is much more pathogenic, if I can use that term. So, septic tank connected to an open drain will be considered as a not contained system with respect to SFDs. And so though there is a lot of debate going on globally on this aspect, but that's the globally accepted fact right now, that if a septic tank or any kind of tank or any kind of pit, if it is overflowing into an open drain, which is overflowing throughout the city, there is pathogen transmission possible. And because it is possible, it's a not contained system at the containment stage as well. So as we dive deeper, we'll understand. So I wanted to give some examples so that everybody has some idea about how it is. So what is the definition of contained? A sanitation technology or a system which ensures safe level of protection from excreta, that is pathogen transmission to the user or general public, is limited, as we just discussed. And of course, not contained will be opposite to that. So if the answer is yes, contained, the color will be green. If the answer is no, the color would be red. So before we kind of go further, if there is any question till now, I hope I'm not moving fast.
Can I ask the question?
If a septic tank is connected to the underground sewerage network,
yes.
But in terms of there is a leak and everything, you know, because the pipes are very things, how this will come in the SFD?
So who's this?
Shubha.
Shubha. Okay. I think everybody else has introduced themselves. You can quickly take a minute and introduce yourself.
I'm Dr. Shubha Muthukumar from Indian Institute for Human Settlement. I'm working in Public Health and Sanitation Department. So I've been working for this vast sector for almost 17 years. Previously, I was in Staff College, Hyderabad.
Welcome. We're looking forward to have interesting discussions. Okay, so yeah, so very, I mean, thanks for pointing this out. So what we have done in SFD is we have tried to map most of the permutation and combinations possible after a toilet. So once we will go deeper into it, you will see how we can kind of find the best fit to the system which we have seen in our cities. So there'll be there are various possibilities. The tank might be leaking, the network might be leaking, the tank might have an open bottom, the walls may be lined, maybe partially lined. So all these kind of systems are mapped on the graphic generator. As we go deeper into it, you will be able to see how we kind of find the best fit to the system you find in your cities. So as of now, we are having a broader. What you said is a case possible, and we will see how we do it. But we are trying to understand here a basic understanding in terms of contained or not contained. So why we are discussing this is to have the basic idea how the graphic generator works. When we use the graphic generator to develop SFD, we are not supposed to actually think about it and decide the color. The generator will do it for us. But what we are trying to understand how the generator thinks. So if we know that, we will be able to see whether the SFD we are producing is the one we had expected to produce, or whether the SFD what we have produced is really reflecting the situation what we have seen on the ground. So for that, we are trying to understand how the graphic generator would work.
Thank you.
Any other question?
So in case I just have a doubt, so if a septic tank is connected to a sewer network would not, but it doesn't go to STP, it will be not contained, right? Suppose the STP is not constructed yet, but the network is laid out, and so eventually the wastewater is not going to the STP, it's going somewhere, polluting some water body.
So if the sewer network is able to take it away from the households to a disposal site, so in that case, the containment stage will be considered as contained, but during the transportation or the treatment stage, we will show it as red. But at the containment stage, it will be green or contained.
Just wanted to ask, in case of offsite system, it will always be contained, or can it be not?
Sorry, come again.
In case of offsite system, will it always be contained, or in that case, can it be not contained?
No, so there is a possibility of a offsite system not contained, where the toilets are connected directly to some kind of a drain and not sewer network. If it is connected to some kind of a sewer network, then it's going to be green at the containment stage.
On the same example, suppose we have a urban village where the toilet connected to open drain, and the open drain itself goes to the STP or a decentralized treatment plant. So in that case, it will be contained or not contained. We might have that case.
So we will understand with this example how. So what you're asking is the subsequent stages, how the color will change. As of now, we are more or less discussing the containment stage. So as we take this example, it will be much more clearer. Okay, I think it's time to look at the example for further understanding this concept. So thank you for actually raising these questions. It helps me to raise my first question to the audience again. So if you see, there are two arrows generating from offsite sanitation. One is green and one is red. Of course, I've answered this just now. What do you think is the red arrow representing? Apart from Shivali and Dhruv, somebody can answer. So there is 19% wastewater. WW is wastewater. It says, I hope everybody is able to see my screen.
Yes.
So if you see, there are two arrows generating from offsite sanitation. One is wastewater contained 19%, and the other is wastewater not contained 3%. What do you think is this wastewater not contained 3% representing? I kind of answered this like 5 minutes back.
it's not being properly managed. Wastewater, the 3% of the wastewater is not being properly managed while it's in the containment.
No, practically speaking, what is it representing? So 19% I can put it across. The 19% people are connected to a sewerage network, whether it goes to a decentralized system or a centralized.
I think this 3% might be like leakage or something like that.
Okay, anybody else?
3% population have not access to any type of a system.
But do they have a toilet?
They may not have.
If they don't have a toilet, then we have a separate section as open defecation. So if the arrow is generating from offsite sanitation, that means they have a toilet at least. Whether it's a household toilet or a community toilet, that's a different question. But they have access to a toilet. What is this 3% representing, practically speaking, in a city? Is the question.
3% of the population is not connected to the treatment.
See, treatment plant is a very far distant question. As of now, we are talking about containment stage. Right after the toilet,
yeah.
What is happening? What is happening right after the toilet that I had to say wastewater not contain 3%?
They have a toilet. They don't have box of that type of containment. For example, their toilet is directly will be flow into the open drain backside of that area. That is one example.
Yeah. Can you
Otherwise, if drain also it goes to the lane and connected to wherever it have a depth on that.
Okay.
3% of the households are not, they are not managing the wastewater. That means that 3% of the household wastewater is directly going to the environment as negative hazards.
See, that's a conceptual understanding. We can see it's written. It's not contained. That means it's not safely managed. The question being, as Shubha answered, the possibility, practically speaking, is the toilet is directly connected to some kind of a drain, a stormwater drain or an open drain or a closed drain, but it's a drain which is directly connected to the toilet. I can take another example. That's a practical example I've seen in one of the cities where a community toilet is built, but there is no septic tank, and all the things which is flushed through the toilet is directly going into the stormwater drain. So in that particular case, you would represent offsite sanitation, but not contained, as this 3% might be referring to. Moving on, of course, you can see the 19%, the arrow is bigger, 3%, the arrow is smaller, and the width is representing the percentage. So if you're not speaking, you can mute yourself.
এটা ওই যে 2% যেটা এই কারণে।
Yeah. Moving on. So as we were discussing, there might be possibility that not all the wastewater reaches the treatment plant. As you can see that 19% of the containment stage were connected to sewer network, but what eventually is reaching the treatment plant is a bit less. Let me take the next arrow as well. Okay, so you can see there is a thin red line. So 7% of, I think wastewater representing the 7% population is reaching the treatment plant from the sewer network, but what is getting treated is 8%. And there is this thin red line in between in the transportation stage. What do you think is this thin line representing?
This thin line represents that some percentage of the contained material does not delivered to treatment. But my question is, if it does not delivered to treatment, maybe why we shouldn't put in the not contained section?
So first of all, the assumption that it is not getting delivered to treatment is wrong. It is getting delivered to treatment. That's why 7 plus 1 is 8% treated. So I'll come to your next part of the question after this. So I have given some hints.
It is contained. Can I answer?
Yes. Is it Subha?
It is contained, but there is not a proper emptying or a transport mechanism is there. That is one way of overflowing will happen. Otherwise, there will be seepage and all. So that is one way of not delivered into treatment. Otherwise, there are other things also we are seeing a lot of time when they start about the sessions and all. It is emptied, but it is not currently delivered to treatment. It has been in between, it has been messed up somewhere. The other way around is also there. It is collected or emptied, but there is no mechanism of the treatment system. Maybe it's a far along from the city, so they might have not have a mechanism of transport properly also.
So let me put this question again. Of course, there is going to be leakage and all those things are going to happen. But as of now, the SFD is not really showing that. Because one of the school of thought the SFD follows is, if there is a leakage, if there is a fallback, if there is any kind of at any stage, if the system is not performing the way it should be, it turns red, or it is representing it is not contained, and the arrow turns down 90 degree. So what you still see in front of you are the arrows which are going from left to right. There is none of the arrows have gone down as of now. So that means we have not shown the leakage part yet. If anybody else could comprehend.
My assumption is like that some portion, like from 3%, 1% excreta somehow go to the treatment zone by a drainage network or other sewer system.
Yes. So it is a possibility. Can I request you to mute yourself?
So I think the way of emptying and transportation is not proper, but somehow it goes to the treatment plant and treated this 1%.
Yeah, so the question being asked is, what is this somehow? What is happening that something which was, let's say, not contained, eventually reaches a treatment plant and gets treated?
Hope so. There is local manual emptier. These people can carry the sludge and can go to the treatment plant and unload his collected sludge.
Thank you. So, Dhruv, I'll ask you after a minute. So just to point it out that we are talking about off-site sanitation right now. So we are not going to talk about any kind of a box here. We're not going to talk about any kind of emptying here. We're not going to talk about any kind of fecal sludge. The only and only arrow which gets generated from off-site sanitation is wastewater. And by wastewater, we mean there was no box at the source. I mean, I want everybody to be very, very clear. So in future, when we are discussing, nobody should say fecal sludge or emptying or such terms for an off-site sanitation system. Okay. So Dhruv, you were trying to explain how come this, what is this red arrow representing?
Yeah, so the thin red line, which is the 1% under the emptying and transportation section, what I was able to comprehend is that it may be the case that from a settlement, from a toilet system, the flush happens and it travels through an open drain. That 1% population's wastewater goes through an open drain, probably to an STP. So while in an open drain, the population which might be living nearby, or there must be some exposure to the human population during that that stage of the transportation of the wastewater. Maybe that is the case where the 1% actually, so 1% population's wastewater is being transported in an unsafe manner, but it eventually goes to an STP or a treatment system where it is being managed. That's my understanding. Yeah.
So yeah, that's the right answer. So I don't know whether in Nepal or Bangladesh you have such examples, but in India we have something called interception and diversion of wastewater just before the treatment plant. So what happens is just before the wastewater enters into a river through a canal or a nala or an open drain, it is being tapped, it is getting diverted to the STP, gets treated, and then goes to the river. So there is no or limited sewerage network. So this STP which is there in the city will have most of the wastewater coming through sewerage network, but there will be some open drains which are getting tapped, and the wastewater is getting treated in the STP. But because it is being tapped from an open drain which is flowing through the city, the wastewater which is representing that 1% population during the transportation stage is not contained. There is a possibility of pathogen transmission during that stage of transportation, and hence the line is red, but eventually you're able to treat it. And that actually brings us back to the point when we were discussing in the beginning. The SFD tells you exactly where the problem is in the city and where the project should be kind of initiated. So when we look at the full SFD, all the red arrows will actually attract some kind of intervention from the decision maker. So from this, I can easily make out the STP has the capacity to treat wastewater, but the wastewater which is coming from the open drain, we need to invest something there to make sure that the transportation is done properly.
Can we consider this also like that 1%? For example, in Hyderabad, some of our nalas, which is the open thing, flowing into Hussain Sagar Lake, but it has a treatment plant in that. It's open nalas.
Yeah, the same thing. So open nala means pathogen transmission possible. That means not contained. But if you're treating it, eventually you can show it as treated. So in the beginning, we were just before this, we were discussing leakages. We were discussing wastewater which is not able to reach the treatment plant. And as I said, if the answer is not contained, your arrow turns down. So you see 14% of wastewater is not getting delivered to the treatment plant, and hence the arrow goes down. So that's about the offsite sanitation. If you have any question, you can ask. We have deliberately taken this example to understand possible cases. Okay. Shivali, you have a question.
I just wanted to ask regarding the thin line. So there might be cases that wastewater is going.
You have to put your mic closer, maybe.
So there might be some cases where wastewater is going to the system through offsite, like STP or some treatment system through offsite system. But in part and partial, the transportation system is not properly designed or under designed. So in that case, that will also come under that thin line. So, but this represent, and the example that Joker gave, that is also one of the way through which it will reach eventually to the treatment system.
Your voice is not coming clear.
Okay, let me just remove the mic. Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yeah, go on.
I wanted to ask if wastewater is going to the STP through offsite system in parts and partial, and between the system, the transportation system might not be properly designed, right? In that case, it will also come in thin line. But this graphic gives the overall percentage of population. So how do you convert that into population?
Yeah, so I mean, during these 3 days, we will discuss how do we do the data analysis, and there we can kind of come to that. But yes, so yeah, we will come to the calculations part then. But as you have rightly said that if there is not properly designed system, and because of that the wastewater does not reach the treatment plant or reaches in parcels, there will be some red arrows in between. Yes. Okay, anybody else? Okay, so I'm assuming that offsite sanitation is more or less clear. Coming on to on-site. So as I was mentioning that off-site system, you will have only and only arrows representing wastewater. For an on-site system, you will have two kinds of arrows generating. One is representing fecal sludge. The other is representing the supernatant. So let us spend a minute here so that everybody is on the same page. So I want a little bit more participation from the participants here. So I'm going to ask some quick fire questions and you need to answer, okay? So you can unmute yourself for some time. So the question is, what goes into a septic tank?
Excreta.
Excreta.
Black water.
Black water. Anybody else? Is there anybody who would like to say that septic tank treats fecal sludge? Does septic tank treats fecal sludge?
Partially.
Okay. Anybody else? Dhruv, you want to say something?
I was just asking, yeah, it does partially have some treatment if it is properly constructed. So if it is properly lined, and so because of the time the FS is in the septic tank, there will be some amount of anaerobic action which will actually treat some of it. Not wholly, but partially, it will treat.
Okay. So the next question is, so as rightly mentioned, what goes into a septic tank? Ideally, it should be black water, but there we have cases where also gray water sometimes gets connected to a septic tank. That's okay. But the major thing for which the septic tank has been designed for is excreta. So I'm not getting into too much what is excreta here, but I believe everybody knows. Feces plus urine plus flush water plus tissue, everything combined is excreta for this sake. A lot of people say that septic tank treats fecal sludge. The answer is no. The septic tank would treat excreta, but what the septic tank produces is fecal sludge or septage. And ideally, I would like to also ask what is the difference between the two, but in the interest of time, anything which is stored. So when excreta is stored in a pit or a septic tank for some time, it gets converted into something which is called fecal sludge in general, whether it's a pit or a septic tank. But if there is a properly designed septic tank, the semi-liquid stuff which is emptied using a vacuum truck or a some kind of a mechanized way or even manual way, you need to empty that semi-solid stuff. That is your fecal sludge. But in case of a septic tank, you can also call it as septage. So in other words, septage is fecal sludge from a septic tank. But if you're talking about this semi-solid stuff from, in general, from a box, you can call it as fecal sludge. A specific type of fecal sludge from a septic tank is called septage. But that doesn't mean you can't call it fecal sludge, because the bigger set is fecal sludge, the smaller subset is septage. Now, so again, I'm repeating, the septic tank is not going to treat the fecal sludge, it's going to treat the excreta partially. And what gets extracted from a septic tank is fecal sludge. What gets extracted from a pit is a fecal sludge. But then there is a liquid component. Most of us in the South Asia region are washers. So we use a lot of water while defecation. So these septic tanks or pits are actually getting a lot of liquid component along with the excreta. Now this liquid component, or this, whether it's a pit or a septic tank, it gets partially treated. So as somebody said, black water. Now excreta plus water is black water. Now this black water, it enters into the septic tank. It's stored for some time. There is a hydraulic retention time and other things. Now what gets out of a septic tank, that partially treated liquid, it is something sometimes referred to as an effluent. In case of an SFD, it's called a supernatant. So I'm repeating that the liquid component or the solid free, it's not completely solid free, but relatively the liquid component which is flowing out of a septic tank, the partially treated liquid effluent, is called supernatant in case of a SFD. Now, so to avoid confusion, as of now, let's keep that understanding. I'll come to it a little later when the infiltration and other things are discussed. But as of now, the understanding is, so there is a solid component, which is fecal sludge or septage, and then there's a liquid component, which is supernatant. So again, there is a little bit confusion in sometimes that what is the right time to empty a septic tank or a tank. A lot of people say that when it gets full, it's time to empty. But these systems are actually designed for a design period, 2 years, 3 years, whatever it might be. So when the design period is completed, it doesn't mean that the tank is full of sludge. It just means that the tank will not work efficiently anymore, the partial treatment which it was doing. Though there is still scope, there is still some space left in the tank with respect to solids being stored. But we never empty our tanks timely, and hence we see that the effluent, the quality of supernatant degrades with time because the septic tank is not able to function the way it should have been. So a little bit of understanding how the septic tank works is important here to understand how these two arrows are getting generated. Now, coming back to the SFD. So we see there is an arrow for fecal sludge not contained. There is an arrow for supernatant not contained. There is a high possibility that there was a septic tank connected to an open drain, and that's the reason both the arrows are red. So I'm not repeating, because the pathogen transmission is possible in an open drain, the whole system is not contained, and hence the arrows are red. Now this is again representing that situation which we were discussing, that supernatant is not contained because it is flowing into an open drain, but eventually it is being tapped and getting treated in a treatment plant, and hence it turns green later on. So we know where the interventions are supposed to be done. There is an intervention required at the containment stage, and there is an intervention required at the conveyance stage. And of course, not everything is reaching the treatment plant. There are certain drains which may not reach a treatment plant. There are certain drains which might be leaking. There are certain drains which are not being tapped. All that will contribute to supernatant not delivered to the treatment. Similarly, talking about fecal sludge, there is a question being asked. So this is the only place we are going to ask the question about emptying. Till now, whether it was supernatant or wastewater, there was no requirement of emptying stage. It was directly, so if you see the arrows, there is no break at the emptying stage. It directly goes to the transport stage. Yeah. When we talk about fecal sludge, that is where we are talking about the emptying stage. So you see there are two arrows generating. One is saying fecal sludge not contained but emptied. The other is saying fecal sludge not contained, not emptied. So of course we will discuss how do we calculate the percentages, but this is what it is. There is some percentage of people who are emptying their systems, and then there are certain people who are not. And that's how the percentages are different. And the width of arrows are representing the percentages. But having said that, there is a portion of emptied fecal sludge which is delivered to a treatment plant, and hence the arrow turns green. And then there is still a lot of percentage of population for which the fecal sludge is not getting delivered, and the arrow takes the right turn and goes down. So if you have any question, you can ask. We'll finish in 5 minutes and we'll take a 5 minutes break after that. No questions? Yeah, Joe.
I just wanted to have one clarification. So under you have said FS not contained but emptied 30%. I have just a simple doubt is that when we say it is not contained but the emptying part is taken care of, shouldn't that arrow be green?
Yes.
Because it is emptying. I'm assuming that the emptying procedure itself is not exposing the population to the pathogens. So in that case.
Yeah, that's a good question. Anybody else has any other question? Okay, so yeah, this is a very, very important question. Why this particular arrow, despite it is getting emptied, is red? So when we were designing the system, the tool, this particular question nobody could answer, that whether the emptying will be contained or not contained. How can we really quantify this? Because it's a very, very this question is dependent on the behavior aspect. So let's say the time when the survey was done, the people started wearing gloves. They were wearing their PPE kits. And as soon as the survey was done, they were back to the normal routine of not using gloves and not wearing PPE. So during the emptying process, are they following the standard protocols? Are they are they waiting for gas to evacuate? Are they checking the gas? So all these aspects are something which cannot be quantified in number because it's a behavior issue. And hence, emptying stage, whether it will be contained or not contained, was unanimously decided. I'm not saying it's a correct way of doing it, but that is what was decided, and that is what we've been following. Is that this emptying, whether the arrow will be red or green, will be dependent on the containment stage. So if my containment is going to be contained, so let's say if I'm emptying from a system which is contained, then my emptying will be green. But if I'm emptying from a system which is not contained, then the color would be red. There is no right or wrong answer to this one, but that's what, because nobody could really quantify the behavior issue here. And this is one thing which we kind of share right in the beginning, that the behavior aspect, the SFD is not able to cover. And that's the reason we have a report to mention all those nitty-gritties which convey the behavioral issue, the quality of service issues. So as of now, the understanding is, and this, if this question was not asked, I was going to kind of ask the question to the audience, that the arrow for emptying is going to be dependent on the stage of containment.
Not on the next stage, like if you're emptying and
Somebody has a comment?
is it also dependent on the next stage where it is getting treated at STP or FSTP, if it is treated properly?
But then, so once the emptying is done, if it is the portion which is getting delivered to the treatment plant turns green. So once the fecal sludge is collected, if it is getting delivered to the treatment facility, the arrow turns green. There is, I mean, you can see that. But the proportion of fecal sludge which is not getting delivered to a treatment plant, that means it is going into the environment anywhere, open land, open drain, wherever it is, that kind of turns into red. So the only place the dependence is at this stage on the emptying stage is going to be dependent on containment stage for the color of the arrow. And the only and only case where the emptying can be green as of now, I'm not saying that the tool is perfect, but that's the tool right now. So we're trying to understand the tool here. So the only way emptying will turn green if our containment system is going to be green. Okay, so is there any other question? Okay. I think I don't need to explain this. There are no stages to this particular arrow. So this is how your complete SMD will look like. And expectation after this particular session is that if I will give you some examples of SFDs, which you will do after this, you will be able to comprehend practically what is happening in the city. You don't have to read it, oh, wastewater is not contained, there is some problem. You have to relate with respect to what would be the practical situation in the city, and that is the reason the color or the arrow or the percentages look like the way they look. So time for a break. Digest what we have kind of understood till now. Let's convene after 10 minutes because today we would like to finish the session a little early at like 4:45, and tomorrow hopefully we will start right on time. So I will request everybody to come on before time, 10 minutes before time, so that we start sharp at 2. And okay, let's get back to work. Hope everybody is back in spirit. Now I would like to like people who have not yet spoken to participate in this session. Okay. So looking at this SFD of Agra, can somebody tell me what are the facing?
Vitush, your voice.
And I don't want to listen in terms of
your
their
voice
wastewater is not getting treated. Am I audible now?
Yes, but your voice is not clear. Can you please repeat?
Okay. Is it better?
Yes.
Okay. So the question is, we are looking at the SFD of Agra. And what I need to understand from you is, looking at the SFD, practically speaking, what you can understand is the major issue the city is facing with respect to sanitation. There can be quite a few issues. You have to tell me at least one which you see is the very big issue that the city is facing. Anybody?
Supernatant is a big problem. There is overflowing. There is no containment.
So as I said, I don't want to listen to with respect to supernatant wastewater fecal sludge. Practically speaking, what's happening in the city you have to comprehend. What's written on the SFD, it's written. What do you comprehend out of the SFD is what I'm looking at.
There is a problem in on-site sanitation system.
What problem?
From containment to emptying, so they are not properly treated.
Very general, I need a specific.
One of the first things which comes to my mind is that 17% is practicing open defecation. That is a very big number, which should be addressed first. It is the first thing which strikes to me in the first glance itself. The open defecation part is very, very large. That is first like Agra, which is high population, that's a good percentage. Secondly, what I also see is that in terms of the, as you see, the majority of city, almost 2/3 is dependent on on-site sanitation system. But the entire the process of emptying and transportation is not in place. So that tells me that there are no mechanisms to address the emptying and transportation of fecal sludge and substance in the city. So that also tells me that a lot of non-sectoral inputs have to be put in place in order to mainstream that as well. So the focus of the city sanitation strategies are mostly on off-site cleaning systems, this is STP. There is less focus on the on-site and open defecation, which needs to be addressed.
Okay. Your voice was not that clear, but
Can I repeat? So what I'm trying to say is that if it is clear now, that on the first instance, 17% of population practicing open defecation is a little high. That is the most striking part on the first instance itself. Second part is that a lot of focus has been on the off-site wastewater treatment system. In terms of your on-site sanitation system, you do have the fecal sludge being contained and treated, but the supernatant part is, so the systems are in the between. The supernatant from the, a lot of things are on the transportation and emptying part from the on-site systems. It's not in place. A lot of open drains might be polluted because of this. That gives me a mixed picture about a lot of open defecation and a lot of input or interventions required in the emptying and transportation part, because that part is missing over here.
Okay. Anybody else?
My understanding from this SFD is like that the city is specially focused on the offsite sanitation system, not the onsite sanitation system. As we can see that the fecal sludge, which is contained approx 16%, is itself treated by its own due to the retention for a very long time. And we can see that the overflow, all the overflow like that, the supernatant and the contained, there is no emptying mechanism I have found so far visually seeing this SFD like that. There is no emptying mechanism for on-site sanitation system. That's why they could not empty it and that's why it overflow and it opens to the environment. That's why I found it all red.
Okay. So the interesting point, which after looking at this particular observation, which I want to point out is that you would see there is some fecal sludge contained here, and the arrow which says not emptied, it directly goes from the containment stage till treatment. What is this arrow really representing? Is the question to the audience.
From my understanding, it is directly connected with the sewer system that directly goes to the treatment plant.
Okay. Anybody else?
Can I repeat the question?
My question is, if you look at the SFD, there is this particular arrow which says fecal sludge contained, not emptied. But it's a green arrow, it is not stopping anywhere. That means it is neither getting emptied nor transported nor treated.
So this is the part of the this is the content of the septic tank, which are still in the tank and which will remain in the tank. And this is the as we say that the septic tank treated some part anaerobically, some anaerobic action is going on, due to which this part remains in the tank and which gets treated. That's why it's not being emptied and
Okay, I can just to give you an idea, looking at the SFD, it doesn't look like a septic tank to me.
My understanding is that when a pit is fulfilled, then people just close it and start another one. That's why it is not emptied but treated, this 6%.
Okay.
Excuse me, because
yes.
Is that like there is a treatment facility at the source? Is that it may happen?
So imagine a twin pit system, I would say.
A twin pit, maybe a biofuel or what we say, yeah.
So in twin pit system, do we need to really empty it, transport it, treat it?
I think
No.
So this is actually representing something of that sort. So in a way, when at source itself, you are able to contain the excreta, and you don't need to empty it, transport it, and treat it. You are able to manage the excreta at the source itself. In that case, when the fecal sludge is not emptied, is contributing to a contained system altogether.
So is that means that it is converted into night soil?
So night soil is again a very loose term. If you go to Thailand, they will use night soil as a term for fecal sludge. In fact, they call their treatment plants as night soil treatment facility. So yeah, so I don't want to get into again terminologies, but what I'm referring to here is that if the system is such where it's not polluting the ground, sorry for this again. Okay, so let's look at some more examples of SFDs and try and understand further. Okay, what do you see here?
The city is overall dependent on on-site sanitation system and open defecation. There is no treatment.
Okay, I think the two, a very major thing which comes out is whenever this SFD was done, most 50% of the population was not even having access to toilet. This is something which really is coming on my face directly. Apart from that, of course, we see none of the services are there for on-site systems. So this is a hilly region. Somebody was asking about hilly region SFD. Anything which is really different in this SFD which you can figure out? Or what is the major problem that the city has right now?
They have a treatment plant, but it is not getting treated.
Right. So if I can say that they do have a treatment plant, but the capacity of the plant or the efficiency of the plant is not up to the mark.
Defined, or it's not the load also, we can say.
Sorry, come again.
The wastewater treatment plant is not functioning.
So it is treating partially, but not everything, both for fecal sludge and for treatment plant. Anything else which is a bit different here?
Supernatant, that is not.
Why do you think there is no supernatant?
Because it is contained in like with fecal sludge alone.
Okay. Practically speaking, what do you think the system might be in the city, which is kind of getting reflected here? There is no supernatant.
One observation is the on-site sanitation system is going to treating properly in the treatment system, whereas in the off-site system, the treatment is not there because probably it might not connected to properly to the treatment, maybe due to the hilly regions or some other thing also.
Mm-hmm. Also, there is hardly any, or actually there is no fecal sludge which is not emptied. So A, there is no supernatant, and B, there is no fecal sludge which is not emptied.
Maybe it is a well-designed containment system.
Very general.
No.
Well designed what?
The systems in the city are open from bottom, and the groundwater risk is very less. Insignificant groundwater risk.
If it was open, then there will be some fecal sludge which will contribute to not emptied. It's not open.
The desludging process is mandatory there, I believe. It is connected to some of their.
Yeah, you're close.
How this is possible until people are coming out and saying that my on-site system is filled up and I want to take it desludging. So either way, they should have a proper monitoring mechanism or some penalties or something else.
Maybe they are following scheduled desludging.
Possible.
They have given any license to the desludges like recent GO of government of Tamil Nadu or something. So there is a proper thing that people can contact, like that is also there in policy interventions. It went up to grassroots level, I believe.
Okay.
So if we see in the containment side, the system is contained. So that is why in the emptying side we have green, and emptying is happening 100%.
That's what is visible. We are looking at what is the practical situation in the city which is kind of forcing the SFD to look like this. Are you kind of getting my question?
The capacity of the treatment plant?
That is something we have already talked about.
Probably the on-site system is connected to the simplified sievers and it is connected to the big sievers. So totally they have a network.
So if at all on-site system was connected to a sewer, there will be an arrow for supernatant. So I really don't know. We have not done this SFD, but what I can make out from looking at this SFD is that the tanks are actually collection tanks. So whatever the excreta is going in those tanks, it is getting collected. They have made huge tanks, but as soon as that tank gets filled, they call for a desludging service. So there is no overflow, there is no infiltration. And as soon as the tank gets filled, so let's say 2 months, 3 months, whatever the time period might be, they call for a desludging service. And there is a monitoring which is kind of inbuilt, because if they don't call for this service, they will have a backflow in their toilet, and also there will be an outflow in the society, where in both the scenario they are in a bad position. So to avoid that, everybody is getting their tanks emptied, and what is getting stored in their tanks is, so there is no liquid emptying, so maybe overflowing from those tanks. So everything is getting stored in a collection tank, and then that tank gets emptied whenever it is full. And that's the reason you see all of it is getting desludged, but not everything is getting treated, because there is a problem in the treatment facility. And 50% of the city is, of course, connected to some kind of a sewer network. And then there are certain toilets which are directly connected to open drain, if at all there is one. This is what I could make out.
What is that collection tank? How they make it for a city type?
Come again?
No, you mentioned regarding the collection tank.
Yes.
How they make for a city?
How they are made?
The load is how the collection tank is made. So, I'm telling how they made it for the population.
So that's very, I mean, it's quite common. There are collection tanks also. I've seen in Goa. There also the desludging frequency is quite high. So wherever the society has an issue, if the tanks overflow in the open drain, or if there is any infiltration, then also it's not acceptable. Taking an international example, it's quite common in Senegal. They make huge tanks, and in 3 months to 6 months, they have to desludge everything which is there collected in those tanks. So that's quite, I mean, it's not rare to find collection tanks. So these are just line tanks which are there to store everything which is flushed down from the toilet. And there is hardly any treatment. It's more liquidy. It's like storing wastewater for some time, and then emptying all of that into your treatment system. It's quite possible.
They connected to the sewer network?
No, there is no
network. From the individual houses?
No network.
Then how every houses will be connected to the collection tank?
Every house will have their own collection tank.
Okay, you're mentioning it's an individual collection tank, not as
yes.
a...
Yes, I'm using the word collection because it is not working as a septic tank. It's a big tank, individual household level tank.
Okay.
But it is not functioning as a septic tank.
Okay, okay. Thank you, thank you.
Okay. This is also quite straightforward. Again, there is no supernatant here. It's an African example. There, the supernatant is not there because they also they are not washers. One of the reasons, so they don't use too much of liquid, and there are a lot of dry toilets there. So chances of having a supernatant there is quite less. Again, a very red kind of structure here. What is the major problem? Well, let me ask the question other way. What will you suggest this city? A low-hanging fruit that if they have to invest in something, what will you suggest to this city?
There might be no treatment plant.
because there is no treatment plant, yes. The treatment plant is something which is going to take some time and resources. What is it that they can, because it's all red, how can you convert this SFD green in given time? Of course, we know the long-term solutions, you should have a treatment plant, you should have everything. But looking at what is the present situation here, so the containment stage is also red. Everything is red, yeah. Okay, let's say if we have a treatment
Might be
plant.
like all the fecal fluids are dumping or disposing in somewhere in the river, or maybe disposing in an open place.
Or what is it that the city already has in place that they don't have to worry about too much?
No open defecation. I mean, that's not there.
Okay. So that means everybody has a toilet. That's a good thing.
Strengthening the
Despite all red arrows. What else?
strengthening the on-site system.
As everybody having a toilet, they should have an on-site system septic tank, because it's a Bangladesh area, maybe high water table will be there, so we cannot have soak pits and these guys. So probably we should see in that angle, better have a closed system, contained one treatment, and one, depending upon the population, first TP can be there, so regular desludging can be done.
Okay. So let me just share my point of view. I mean, they're doing good emptying. I mean, they have, all of them have toilets, and they have this emptying system in place. 71% of them or these tanks are getting emptied. So as someone really said in the beginning, if you just had a treatment facility or a trenching site or something, or a disposal site to start with, then you're quite a major chunk of your arrows turn green, because you have the transportation emptying more or less there. You have the toilets, and then of course slowly and steady. So the slowest, of course, is to upgrade the containment system, because it is dependent on the households quite some time. So the same question for this city as well. What will you suggest to the city to turn the arrows green?
There should be more frequency of desludging, emptying percentage should be increased in this case, for just to turn into green. Emptying.
And they can improve.
We can improve on emptying part, more regular desludging.
And what should they do about it?
So, like there should be frequent desludging from the households, like collection tanks. I guess this is also a case of collection tanks. There's no supernatant in this case. So, and also the treatment plant also. Yeah.
So we can see that. Hello.
Yeah.
Fecal sludge contained emptied 11%, out of which only 1% is getting treated. So the emptied fecal sludge is not reaching to the treatment. So it is going somewhere, maybe it is not delivered to the treatment. So we can work on that, like making bylaws, or maybe regularizing these MTS, that they have to, or maybe better monitoring in this case.
Yeah. So you're saying emptying is happening, but it's not going to a treatment facility. So if a treatment facility is introduced, this will help. So both, we need to improve the emptying, and we also need to have a treatment facility. And also there is 4% people defecating in open, so we need to take care of that. Okay. This is SFD from America. What will you suggest them?
Connect that 10% also to sewer network.
Fair work for sewer network.
Actually leaking.
Then work on the maintenance.
They need to look at their leakages and maintain, and which is again an expensive aspect. Okay, I think we've got fair idea. I'll not look at all the SFDs. So okay, so for today, this was the major task we wanted to finish. Is to understand how do we read an SFD, how do we comprehend an SFD, and if an SFD is thrown at you, can you comprehend what was happening in the city and why the SFD looks like this? And so today we have, so there is some homework. If you've already gone through the study material in the Moodle platform, you must have realized that there is a section called terms and variables in the manual, SFD manual. Let's look at it. So there is this SFD manual here. I think we had also made it easier by cut it. Harsh, do we have a truncated version? Yeah. This SFD terms.
Yes, we have.
So there are, so the homework for today is that you have to, of course, not look at the whole manual. Just glance through these definitions also. You can just have a quick look. But the part which I want you to go through is this one. So this is an SFD glossary in the Moodle platform. I hope everybody has the access to Moodle and they are now familiar with the platform. Most of you have introduced yourself, I've seen. So this is the document on glossary. You don't have to go to the whole manual. I want you to have a look at this. As we were discussing, how do we really represent situations which are various permutation combinations. If you see, the whole glossary has been divided into, there is a variable group, which is L2 or something, and then there is a reference number to it. There is a description and there is a definition of that particular system. So each reference here, T1, A1, C3, is actually representing a particular system. And by system, I mean the whole system, in the sense that septic tank connected to a soak pit is a system. Septic tank connected to an open drain is a different system. Okay, so each of the possible system has been given a code here. T1, A1, C1, T1, A1, C9, whatever it is. So I want you to have a, I don't have to kind of mug up, but I want you to have a look at it and relate with the actual situations on ground which you have seen. So for example, somebody was saying a septic tank connected to a sewer network which is leaking. So you have to find your system in this glossary in a way and relate, okay, T1A1C3 means fully lined tank connected to a decentralized combined sewer. And then there's of course a definition to it. So tomorrow morning we will have a small, very small quiz where we will pictorially show you some pictures and you will have to find the exact variable from this glossary. So if you have already gone through this glossary, it will be helpful. After we have done the exercise, I will also kind of explain a bit how this variable really is defined. What does T means, what does 1 means, A means, 3 means. We'll touch upon this aspect as well tomorrow. And before we kind of end for the day, my colleague has helped me for a poll here. So all of you will see there is a poll in front of you. So I think there are not many questions. So take 2 minutes to answer. I think there are 7, 8 questions. Just answer these questions, and this will help us to understand where we are going wrong, and we can improve upon tomorrow and going forward. So I hope everybody can see the poll. So just spend 2 minutes and answer these questions. I can see already 9 people have done it. So I think most of you have already done, just waiting for a couple of you.